Have you ever been scrolling through Instagram or YouTube watching other people seemingly live these amazing travel lifestyles and thought to yourself, damn, I wish I could do that, but I don't have the money?
I really have little to no money. In fact, I owe so much money in loans that I might be kind of screwed, but basically I'm looking for places to work and get free food and accommodation in exchange to see awesome places like where I am now.
Burning up, going crazy like a wildfire.
Hi, I'm Poppy, and this is my 3-year travel story.
Flames running through my soul like lava, yeah.
I might not have had the money, but I certainly had the drive. As cliche as that sounds, it's true. But it was by no means easy. Many times I was either broke, feeling like a failure, or confused to why I was even still traveling. But I persevered. It's easy to look back and only remember the good times, especially when you've captured most of it on film and it's compiled together with happy, uplifting travel music. Oh, and don't forget slow motion shots. I mean, yeah, I've had a blast these past few years, but it definitely hasn't been as easy as it looks. Sometimes it's really sucked ass. That's not what you want to hear though, is it? You want to hear about how I found myself in travel, how traveling has healed me of all my fears and anxieties because travel is medicine for the soul, blah, blah, blah. Are you serious? Where do you think I got the fears and anxieties in the first place? I was lost when I started traveling, and guess what? I still am. The only difference from when I started traveling until now is that I've gained a whole new perspective on life from being exposed to countless different countries and cultures, people, languages, cuisines, and so much more that I'll never be the same. And when traveling becomes a way of life instead of just a holiday vacation, you realize you're not exempt from day-to-day hardships you'd normally face if you were back home. If anything, it's just been kicked up a notch because now you're facing everyday regular issues, but in a foreign country, completely out of your comfort zone with new problems that you've never encountered and have absolutely no idea how to deal with because you're all alone in an unfamiliar place. Let's go through just some of the things I've had to deal with over the past few years.
Well, we did have a dirt bike.
Why does this stuff happen to us? 3 months into my 3 years of traveling, I already got all my stuff stolen and was even left stranded on an island in Mexico wearing just a bikini. Yeah, major travel fail. I got food poisoning on a 5-hour-long bus ride in Romania, ended up puking in countless grocery bags the entire ride, got drugged in the Philippines while drinking watermelon juice at a cafe. Thankfully, I had a friend with me who could take me home, otherwise who knows where I'd be today. Was sexually assaulted under a bridge in Paris in broad daylight. And I was screaming, and so these 3 women came running. Got scammed out of almost $5,000 US while living in China. Became so broke that my boyfriend and I at the time could only afford to eat top ramen, and eventually left to Malaysia because we couldn't even afford rent. Speaking of boyfriends, split up with my long-term boyfriend of 2.5 years while living together in a house in Bali. I think one of the worst situations to be in when you are abroad traveling, because now it's like, all right, we've broken up, but we live together in a foreign country. Where do we go? There's nowhere to hide. It's not like I can go back to my own apartment or go to a friend's house. Like, I can't. Thankfully, we've remained friends, but breakups are still never easy, especially when you've been traveling together and now have to go back to solo travel. Almost quit YouTube and traveling altogether because I was severely depressed with life circumstances and felt like a failed influencer. Even went to Nebraska for a few months to stay with my parents and cry over what I thought was a pathetic life. I just feel like I'm constantly in a state of financial stress, and I just have a lot of insecurities because of YouTube that were never there. People get really mean and they really attack every little bit of your personality, every part of your face, all of your looks, every imperfection. Before I make this a negative sob story, I want to say I wouldn't go back and change anything that has happened. Life isn't perfect, and we will continue to run into problems throughout our lives. There's no avoiding this. Just because you escaped your old life to travel doesn't mean you won't face the same or new problems on the road. Because of these difficult moments and struggles, I've become stronger. I've become better at dealing with difficult situations in unfamiliar places and all on my own. I have a new appreciation for myself, for people, for countries, for life in general. It's where my positivity comes from. I often get questioned for how I remain so positive, and I feel like the reason is because I've been exposed to so much bad that I appreciate everything that's good, whether big or small. The most important life lesson I've learned from traveling all these years is the importance of community. Traveling to beautiful, exotic places are great and all, but the memories we hold typically involve the people we were with at those destinations. My best travel moments are because the people made it so great, not necessarily the place. Some of my fondest memories are hiking the 5-day trek to Machu Picchu with one of my best friends from college. We used to be college roommates but hadn't seen each other in years, so it was the best trip to reconnect while seeing some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever encountered. We also made loads of friends on the hike as well, and while it may have been difficult with very high altitude and long hours of walking, it was well worth the journey and one of my favorite travel memories. Oh my god. Bali.
She was living on couches that belonged to her friends. She would sleep with her feet in her shins hanging over the ends, looking over her shoulder, never knowing herself.
I'd never encountered a culture so inviting, so thrilled to show you their traditions, or just so positive and happy all the time. I lived with the sweetest Balinese family for over 4 months who loved to just hang out. They loved to cook us delicious homemade food, teach us about Balinese Hinduism, and take my friends and I to pray at temple. I even got invited to a Balinese funeral once, which was super interesting, and also a baptism, all of which are very, very different to my culture. For a lot of people, I feel like they go to Bali because it's cheap and beautiful, but for me, it was for the people and the culture. I was so fascinated that I never wanted to leave.
Feel it now every time I leave. It hits me hard and it cuts me deep. I'm 1,000 miles from happiness, 1,000 miles from you.
Malaysia. My time spent in Malaysia is actually one of my fondest memories as well because it was just such a different and unique experience. I got to volunteer at this bamboo resort 20 minutes from the Kuala Lumpur airport in a small village called Banting. There was no Wi-Fi, no reception. We were essentially living outside in bamboo huts for an entire month. But it was all spent with local Malays. We got to go bamboo rafting on this beautiful dark blue lake, swim in these crystal pools that were completely clear because the debris would get soaked into the clay basins. We would go zip lining across the lake, ATVing, although it was some pretty sketchy routes, but still fun as. And then the constant delicious homemade food they provided us every single day. It was a blast.
Selamat Hari Raya!
China. China has been a very significant part of my travels and just my life. I'd say it's the country I've probably seen the most of and I'm the most educated about. China was the first place I got culture shock. Even after years of traveling my entire life, this was the country that made my mouth drop, literally. My boyfriend and I at the time moved to Shenzhen for a year, just across the border from Hong Kong, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. China is just so different from the Western world. Everything feels backwards. That's why I found it so fascinating and such a hidden gem to explore. Not a lot of people know much about China, including myself, and the more I learn, the more fascinated I become, and the more I fall in love with this amazing country. Australia. The word that comes to mind is home. I just feel home here. I feel like I was meant to be born in Australia, but there was some mistake in the universe and I was accidentally born in the US. It's very similar to my hometown in San Diego, California, with a similar vibe, lifestyle, scenery, but just, well, better, in my personal opinion. I don't know, I just feel Australian at heart. I feel Aussie, and it's the first place that I literally cried my eyes out after leaving.
It's really great when you meet a lot of people in an area and you're traveling and it sucks to say goodbye.
New Zealand. Wow. Just wow. The scenery, the landscapes, definitely the most beautiful country I've ever visited in my life. I did a 3.5-week road trip starting in the South Island all the way up to the North Island. Experienced a bit of van life slightly, not really because I slept in a tent outside the entire time, but it was still good fun. Even got to speak French the entire trip, not what I was expecting going to New Zealand, but hey, travel is always an adventure.
Allez, come on.
Non, bah,
Allez.
pas toute seule maintenant.
Allez. Allez, on y va là. Come on. Allez.
Okay, c'est fini.
Guatemala. While there are many more places I haven't talked about that I visited, I wanted to end on Guatemala. If you ask me where my favorite places to travel to are, I would answer Bali and Guatemala every time. And both for the same reasons, the culture and the people. I'm so fascinated by the culture in Guatemala, especially with the Mayans, that every time I visit, I leave wanting to see more.
They're doing like a blessing or sort of like a protection for the whole family. That's why they include. They seem like they're speaking Cachiquel. So he's telling them, act like you're gonna catch some fire and pour it on your body as if it was water.
Especially my most recent trip when I took some of my subscribers with me, we helped remodel a hospital and improved many lives in the small village in San Jacinto, Chiquimula. I feel like everyone on this trip had a life-changing experience and it's become one of my favorite travel memories.
Señorita.
Papi. Papi. Ay, papi.
Hi, papi. Okay.
Sí.
Hi, mami.
Mucho gusto.
But places aside, what I've gained from traveling is much more than good times. I've gained so much confidence in myself, whether it's career-oriented or inner feelings, street smarts. I mean, the list can go on and on. It's not perfect, of course, but definitely a massive improvement in how I perceive myself. Career. Before I started traveling, I had an idea of what I wanted to do for a job, but just didn't know how to execute it. Even now, I wouldn't know what job title to apply for because I feel like what I want to do is so broad and just non-existent. But guess what? I found it all on my own. I found a way to make money online from doing all the things I'm passionate about. Of course, I don't love every aspect of what I do, and at times it can be brutal and difficult.
Let's rewind to this morning when I got water delivered to my door and talk about the ways I get around the daily.
But I'm unbelievably grateful that I found a way to be a successful travel influencer and inspire others to take the unconventional route like I did and do what they're actually passionate about. That brings me to my next point, courage. It's pretty much a given that you will gain more courage if you travel. This began for me the moment I decided to even solo travel, something I thought I could never do or never even wanted to do. I faced my fear of heights countless times, although I'm still kind of terrified. I faced my fear of hitchhiking, eating crazy looking foods, and so much more. This courage has brought out a new quality in me, which is spontaneity. I would say I'm an extremely spontaneous person now, thanks to travel, and I love it. I've been on countless spur-of-the-moment adventures with random people I've met along my travels, and it's led me to some out-of-this-world adventures. My spontaneity has led me to build many new relationships. I do have friends all over the world now, which at times I get sad about because I wish they could all be in one place, but I'm still grateful for every person I meet and become close with. Traveling has also improved my social skills. I'd say I was already pretty outgoing before I started traveling, but it's definitely brought a whole new level and really helps open a lot of doors. Lastly, I became a committed Christian in Hillsong Church, Sydney when I was traveling Australia. I tried to get into Christianity over the course of my life, but never seemed to fully commit. But when I felt like my life was on a downward spiral, I got saved, and my life has completely flipped ever since. I genuinely think by the end of this year, I'll be saying this was the best year of my life. And I know it's because I made the decision to commit my life to God. These last 3 years have surely been an adventure I'll never forget. But the truth is, I'm tired. I'm tired of this nomadic lifestyle. I'm tired of living on the road essentially homeless. Living out of a small carry-on backpack is tiring both physically and emotionally. I'm constantly feeling like I don't belong anywhere in the world or don't even really have any friends because they're all so spread out. I'm happy I've lasted this long, but I do think this chapter of my life is finally over and it's time to try something new. It's time to find a home and build my community. It's time for the next adventure and the next stage in my life. If you're still with me at the end of this video, then I do hope you stick around for my journey to share more content about people and cultures from around the world. I hope you have the same philosophy as me, which is travel is not about the places you visit. It's about the people you meet along the way. Join me on my journey if you agree. I don't necessarily know where life will take me, so you'll just have to stay tuned to find out. Where's Poppy?
Heart of a lion, never say never. Cut like a diamond, shine under pressure. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Pound on your chest like there's no tomorrow. Just play the game right, no one can follow. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Under pressure, it's time to fire on up. It's time to fire on up, yeah. Pound on your chest like there's no tomorrow. Just play the game right, no one can follow. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Shine under pressure. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Oh, it's time to fire on up. Pound on your chest like there's no tomorrow. Just play the game right, no one can follow. Oh, it's time to fire